So thanks again for being here as we kick off an awesome fight weekend. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Scott.
Thank you, Bob, and thanks everybody for attending the media conference today. I want to say by saying thank you to Viacom, Bob, of course, Sarah Levy, Wade Davis, who's currently here. Wade, thank you. Kevin Kay, who actually, to me, maybe we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him, because back in 2004, 2005, it was Spike TV that gave the chance for a show to be on Spike that actually ignited MMA and the survival of MMA, because I was there, and at that time, mixed martial arts was a little shaky. Kickboxing was doing okay, but mixed martial arts was, and the king really was Pride in Japan. That was the premier organization, and it was the commitment from Viacom, from Kevin Kay, from Spike, from Wade, all the way up that made, I believe, what MMA is here in the United States. And that commitment continues because their investment in Bellator, their belief in Bellator, their belief in our staff, in our fighters, and our ability to get the job done. And I think in the last 4 years, we've had a lot of great successes, which I'll be talking about some of them, but you know, getting back to the commitment, again, thank you, Wade, thank you, Kevin, appreciate everything. And you know, when a company like Viacom, a powerful media company, gets behind a brand like Bellator, you can see what happens in the last 4 years. It's been quite amazing. So, thank you. It's been a breakthrough year for us. I think if you look at our international expansion, we're opening an office in London as we speak. I was just there a couple days ago with Doug Rosen, who's been very helpful in helping us get our international footprint going. 2 weeks ago, we welcomed our new partner, DAZN, streaming service. We had a great fight in San Jose at the SAP Center with Gegard Mousasi fighting Rory McDonald, and then the 4th installment of the fight between Rampage Jackson and Vanderlei Silva. So we're looking forward to continuing that welterweight tournament on DAZN. And DAZN, we were live in several key markets that we haven't been live before. We were live in Japan, we were live in Canada, we were live in Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Italy, and we were also live on Channel 5 in the UK. And I know you guys know the whole Pepe the Pig thing, so we don't need to talk about that, but we got cut off at 6 o'clock, but we're working on that and we're going to fix that for the future. When I talk about the European expansion, we'll do fights next year in some cities that we haven't been. We'll be in Stockholm, we're going to go to Amsterdam and Barcelona. We'll also do fights in Birmingham, Newcastle, London, and in Manchester. So we're going to be all over in Europe with our own European series, and we'll create the European series for the European fighters, the European broadcasters, to be in their time slots. They don't have to wait until 3 in the morning to watch the fights from here. But in addition, they'll also get the 22 fights that we'll be doing for the United States. So it'll be a 32 fight package in MMA starting in 2019 for the European markets, the Western European markets. So it's a very exciting time. We hired veteran promoter David Green as our head of Bellator Europe, and signed on Jude Samuel, who's also here today, as our matchmaker for all the European fights. So it's a very exciting time for this company. And when I think about the growth, the television ratings have been good. Our tentpoles have delivered big numbers. Our social and digital have experienced triple-digit growth. So all indicators are that you know, we are making a big footprint, not just here, but globally, because a lot of these hits, a lot of these social hits are from all over the world. I was looking at some of the numbers from the Philippines and Southeast Asia, from Russia, you know, for the UK. It's pretty impressive. So I think that at some point, Dave, we should probably share that with everybody, because that's a good number, and we should share the international footprint of this brand. Because 4 years ago, it wasn't like that. You know, 4 years ago, we were restructuring, bringing in a new fighter roster, bringing in new staff, trying to turn this thing around, and now it's a you know, a big machine. And it doesn't start. I mean, it starts with the fighters. At the end of the day, our relationship with our athletes, I think, are at the highest level. You'll hear athletes always speak good about this company. We try to treat them with ultimate respect. We try to treat them as if they were part of our family. And that's what I say. I tell my team, my staff, this is the Bellator family. And we extend that to the fighters as well. And some of these fighters like Fedor or Vanderlei or some of the other fighters that fight for us, these have been my friends for 15, 20 years. So, they come in and out of the family, and now we're back together. We got a big main event on Friday and Saturday, and we're very excited to have both those fights here in the New York area. We talk about fighter development from the bottom up. Aaron Pico, AJ McKee, Elima McFarland, who will be headlining the fight on Saturday, December 15th in Hawaii, in front of her hometown on DAZN. And we have a big announcement to make. I'm sure some of you read it this morning in the USA Today, but we are doing a Salute the Troops fight on Friday the 14th in Honolulu at the Blaisdell Arena the night before the DAZN fight with Lee Malay, and it'll be on Paramount, and it's going to be free for the troops. So we're going to have an event where the troops and all the families and the friends of the troops can come to this event at free, at no cost, and it's our give back to their community. Brent Primus will fight Michael Chandler as the main event, and also Frank Mir will be fighting Javier Ayala as the semi-main event. Let's talk about the Grand Prix. I've always felt that tournaments in martial arts make sense, and people say, well, who should this guy fight, and who should that guy fight, and who decides who fights who in a normal format? Well, in the tournament, you don't have to ask that question because you just have to win. So we picked out 8 of the top heavyweights in the world. We invited them to come fight. They love the idea of having this heavyweight tournament. It's been a great piece of business for us domestically, internationally, and through our blue chip sponsors, the Live Gate. Everything has been boosted up by this heavyweight tournament. So we're really looking forward to the continuation this Friday and Saturday. Fedor Emelianenko will fight All-American wrestler Sonnen on the Saturday card. This card is stacked. It's the first time we've been in Long Island, and the Friday fight will have Matt Mitrione fighting Ryan Bader, and both those fighters will fight in the finals and become the heavyweight champion on January 26th at the Forum in Los Angeles. So very excited about that. Okay, at this time, I think that we would just like to open it up for questions. So,
just for Chael, just saw that new promo. Did you enjoy filming that? Putting all the USA gear on and doing all that stuff.
I felt ridiculous. You know what? We did that here. I went in a dressing room. I put that on. Right as I was coming out, Fedor must have been walking in because it was like, he took one look at me and laughed. I hung my head like a doofus and walked away. So no, I didn't really like it. And I haven't seen that movie in a very long time. I thought I was dressed as Rocky. It turns out I was dressed as another guy who dies fighting a Russian. So no, I didn't enjoy it that much. But I kept it. I did keep it. Stole it from wardrobe. It's at home right now.
Will you wear it again?
But not for a promo. Maybe on Halloween.
Just for a side, you're a pretty big underdog in this fight. Do you feel like the reason for that, betting wise, is just the respect for Benson, or maybe people are overlooking you coming into this fight?
I don't know. I don't look at to be completely honest with you. I think if I go back to a lot of my fights that I was the underdog, I think I won those fights. So I don't get underdogs. Or rankings.
And when we spoke to you after your last win, we mentioned the possibility of fighting Benson. You kind of dismissed it, saying, I want the title shot, all that stuff. So how did this fight come to fruition for you, and why did you ultimately decide to take it?
I take any fight they give me, and Benson did win his last fight. He beat a respectable guy. So I think, he's a big name, and that's why we're here. Co-headlining this card, and we're gonna put on a good fight.
Right here, Chael, right here. You said you wanted to come in a little lighter for this earlier in the week, like around 220, and you talked about your boxing prowess. Is the plan to outwork and outmaneuver and fatigue Fedor?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, my plan's the same every single time. I've been at this sport for a long time, and I love to develop new skills. I love to learn. I think I am still developing and learning. But when I get in there, I go to plan A every time. The second they say fight, I'm going to come across that ring and get in a fight with Fedor. I am going to threaten and dare him the entire time to get him to swing that right hand. And the second he does, I'm going to come underneath him, put him on his ass against the fence, and beat a hole into his face for 15 minutes or until he gives up. He can know that game plan. He can watch me do the game plan. That's my game plan. He may knock me out with one of those right hands. I've never dealt with Fedor, power like I'm going to have to deal with Fedor, but that's what this is. If I can get to him, it's going to be a long and annoying night for him. And if he can get to me, it's going to be a short and embarrassing night for me.
And one more for Fedor.
Why? Why would you ask a question of Fedor? What are you expecting to get from this? You could take the J train downtown, just ask your question to the Brooklyn Bridge. And architecturally, it would be more stimulating than you're going to get from Fedor. Have you seen him with his shirt off? Rethink that. Ask me another question.
Do you talked about his power, Chael, and how you're concerned with it. Is that the other reason you want to be light, so you can avoid that right hand?
Yeah, I don't want to get hit with that thing. I watch so many people be a highlight reel, and I've seen about everything out there in my career, better or worse. Training situations where I had never seen power like this. I couldn't believe some of the stuff I was seeing. He was throwing punches and coming off of his feet. He was doing that on ground and pound. He was hitting guys, and his knees were coming up off the ground. I can't even duplicate it. I don't know how the human body does it. I mean that as a big compliment, but yeah, that's on my mind. He's got some power.
And the question I had for Fedor, the promo that you just saw, how did you react to it when you first saw it? What was your feelings about it?
Ролик, который вы видели, вам понравился, и какие ваши впечатления по поводу этого ролика?
Я еще не видел ролика.
I haven't watched it yet. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I did warn you. In fairness.
Question, first of all, for European housekeeping for Scott Coker. Scott, you mentioned Manchester, Birmingham, London and Newcastle, and two European continental destinations, Spain and Holland. You didn't mention Dublin earlier on. Is that on the cards for next year as well?
Yes, Dublin and Belfast.
And can you just clarify, did you also say that British viewers will be able to see the 22 events over this side of the
Yes, that's what we're working on right now. And that's the goal for us to have all 32 events being broadcast live in the UK and in Ireland.
Thank you, Scott. Chael Sonnen. Chael, you had two fights with Anderson Silva. You had a fight with John Jones, and we can fairly say you're now having a contest with another modern great. There's three modern greats in the sport of MMA. Do you have to get the win for the legacy, or will you be remembered as the man that lost to these three greats?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I want to beat him bad. He's the biggest problem that I have right now, and you know, when that problem goes away, I got one of those doofuses from the Mohegan Sun to deal with, and when that problem's over, I gotta try to stop my wife from spending all the money. So I mean, I got a lot of problems, Gareth, but I tell you, legacy's always bothered me. I despise that word. I don't like when people talk about it. It makes me think of the guys when I was in high school that had graduated, but they come back to the football games wearing their Letterman's jackets. I don't know about those things. This is a sport. Kids play sports. And if you are lucky enough and fortunate enough to get to do it as an adult, I enjoy those moments, but I do plan to move on when this sport's done. I don't need to wear that Letterman's jacket back to the football game.
And a question for Fedor.
How about a question for you? I see you have a tie, but you're not really wearing the tie. What was the point of the tie? Oh, it's a scarf. Oh, well then let's carry on.
Thank you, Chael. Question for Fedor. I think you should concentrate on Fedor, not me, frankly.
Well, you know, I'm looking at you. I'm not looking at Fedor.
I mean, you know, you're always having a go. You're always having a go.
He came here with nothing to say in his fanciest t-shirt. What do you want me to do with the guy?
Well, let me ask Fedor about that. Fedor, you know, do you find Chael amusing? I mean, he's saying that you have nothing to say, that your body doesn't look great when you take your shirt off. How do you feel about the things he says about you?
Федор, как вы относитесь к тому, что говорит Чел, вот когда он говорит, что ваше тело выглядит не так прям хорошо, если вы рубашку снимете, или насколько вы считаете, он такой вот развлекательный, говорит, что не спрашивать вас, потому что вы все равно ничего не ответите. Как вы относитесь к тому, что он говорит?
Нет, я согласен, что мое тело не бодибилдера.
Well, I can tell you, I agree that my body is not the bodybuilder's body.
Поэтому здесь он прав, конечно, но в ринге, в кейче измеряется немножко другими размерами, понятиями.
That's why certainly in this very case he is right, but in the cage there are different measurements.
Вообще нужно, конечно, уметь
Okay, we'll finish with that.
Федор. Здравствуйте. Что из того, что сказал сейчас Чейл Соннен, вы поняли, насколько вам позволяет ваш уровень английского? И будут ли вам потом переводить, что он говорил про вас сейчас?
Fedor, what did you manage to understand from what Chell said, and how big is your level of English? And are you going to be translating the words which Chell said?
Я все понимаю.
I understand everything.
Нет необходимости переводить.
There is no necessity for somebody to translate that for me.
Well, allow me to then. Everybody wants to know what Fedor is thinking, and I can promise you guys he's up here thinking the same thing you'd be thinking, which is why in God's name did I get on the wrong side of Chael Sonnen?
И вопрос Александру Шлеменко. Александр, правда ли, что вы согласились на этот бой со соотечественником, со своим, только потому, что хотели побыстрее отработать контракт с Bellator и стать свободным агентом?
Question to Alexander Shlemenko. Alexander, is it true that you agreed to fight your fellow countryman, Anatoly Tokov, just in order to finish your contract applications with Bellator as soon as possible?
Спасибо за вопрос. Вообще, если посмотреть на мою карьеру, то за последние 3 года в Bellator я подрался ровно 3 раза. В год по разу. Меня это совершенно не устраивает. Конечно же, мы просили, я не понимаю, в чем проблема, почему я так редко стал выступать, тем более я считаю, что показываю зрелищные бои. И мы с моим менеджером Алексеем обратились, чтобы я... Вообще, что мы готовы драться с любым соперником от 84 до 77 килограмм. Нам предложили Анатолия, но, конечно же, мы не будем отказываться, потому что мы уже сказали, готовы драться с любым. Вот так.
Thank you for your question. Well, if you take a look at my career, you can see that in the last 3 years I fought in Bellator cage only 3 times, which makes it just once a year. Of course I don't like that, and we addressed Bellator with that. We asked for fights many times, but we were not giving them. So as a result, we told Bellator that we are ready to fight with anyone from 170 to 185 against any opponent. And once Bellator offered us Anatoly Tokov, we couldn't back down since we already said that we would fight anybody.
Two quick questions. First for Benson. I see you're streaming. Periscope, Twitch, what's on the other side?
Facebook Live.
Okay. Second for you, actually, is where's the toothpick? It's the trademark, and we haven't seen it lately.
No toothpick right now. I have a 3-year-old at home, and now he sees me do anything, he wants to copy me and do it also. So now my biggest fear, my mom always had the fear of me, having a toothpick in my mouth when I was in high school and junior high and stuff. And now for me, it's like I see my 3-year-old me having a toothpick, he puts a toothpick in his mouth and run around flattened like crazy and swallowed the tooth. I'm like, oh my god! So now since my oldest son has been born, I've cut back on the toothpicks quite a bit. Still practice and still like not at home, but because of that, it segues into out and about in public or not. I don't have toothpicks quite as much anymore.
So the middle of the cage is fine, but the kid was what ended.
Yes, the middle of the cage, training, boxing, wrestling, everything's no problem. My son, though, I'm like, oh god, this is so scary. He had toothpicks in his mouth, run around the house, and yeah, so that's why I'm gonna cut it out.
And finally, one quick question, Mr. Anatoly. How do you feel about fighting a countryman? Sometimes that does, people don't always like that. Some people try and avoid it.
Анатолий, как вы относитесь к тому, что вам приходится встречаться с вашим соотечественником? Иногда люди как бы не очень хорошо к этому относятся. Что вы думаете по этому поводу?
Здравствуйте. Честно говоря, я не ожидал, что мне предложат бой с Александром. И никогда не думал, что у меня такой бой будет, тем более за границей и с отечественником. Можно сказать, даже с земляком. Вот. Ну, это спорт, как бы... Это спорт. Вот так.
Thank you very much for the question. First of all, this is the sport. This is the sport. I never thought actually that I would meet, I would have the chance to fight Alexander. More than that I will meet him abroad, not in the country. But what can we do about that?
One for Czech Congo. Between your UFC and Bellator career, this is your 31st fight, which I believe is tied with Tito Ortiz for the most ever. How have you been able to keep this longevity, and just how are you feeling going into this fight?
So I'm pretty fortunate because I used to be introduced 8 years ago, windbag therapy, TK. So it's not familiar here in America, but that's the way I used to promote that therapy, and that's a good way to work on recovery injuries. So, and since I used to be introduced to that, even more my preparation, my performance used to increase. So that's good. That's the way to stay healthy and be treated with non-invasive products. So for sure, stay out of drugs and stuff like this. So I'm pretty fortunate.
And for Scott, just to confirm, if something crazy happens with Fedor and Chael, is check the backup plan to get into this tournament?
We have actually, Czech says yes, but it's the possibility of Czech fighting. If he wins against Roy Nelson, is probably the direction that we'll go.
And so if they both win, that's the most likely scenario.
Yeah, because that's I think that we have talked to Roy about that already, and he's kind of the #1 slot. Czech wins, and then if there's like a hiccup there, then we should probably have those two alternates fight, and then the winner can fight in the finals.
How do you feel about that Czech? Is Roy Nelson someone you'd like to fight?
Oh, for sure. The thing is, it's always good to meet old mate and get some revenge, especially when you were not on top of your shape during the fight. So, but at some point, I'm just a little bit, what I should say. Yeah, I'm not happy with the situation. Yeah, just the fact to make the line again, to get the opportunity to fight. But that's what it is.
Because if you win this fight, it'll be 7 in a row, right? And that's the longest winning streak in this weight class.
Sorry, say that again?
If you win this fight, you'll have won 7 in a row. Do you feel like you've, maybe earned to fight the winner of the tournament?
The thing is, as I used to say, I have nothing to prove. Win or lose, I just do my best. So in those circumstances, the goal is to win. So I didn't count, win or lose. I just here to win. So for me, it's a big competition, and it's not fancy. I didn't do that sport to be famous or, so the game is a game, and let's do it. So my next opponent is next to me, so it was pleasant to meet him, a few minutes ago. So, and I wish him the best, but I'm not here to play.
And for Tim Johnson, I'll talk about Czech here, but do you feel you come in, win this debut fight in impressive fashion, you can kind of take that spot?
Yeah, I haven't really thought too much about that. This is especially being my debut. You beat Czech. You're gonna definitely put yourself somewhere. Like you said, he's won 6 in a row, and that's tough. Anyone who fights in heavyweight division knows that's going to be a tough thing to do, no matter where you're at. So yeah, pull out a win, I'd like to think that at least put me in the conversation.
Yeah, and you left the UFC on a win. Why did you feel Bellator was the right fit for you?
I just like how everything's going here. Viewership, and they're nipping at UFC's tail.
Yeah, and just for Benson, I know you've talked about maybe doing some military work in your future, or all that stuff. They just announced the Salute to the Troops card in December. Is that something you'd be interested in fighting on after this fight?
Oh yeah, I'm always game. I'm always game to get back in the cage right away. I have a short time left, so I want to get as many fights as I can in the little bit of time that I have left. And fighting from the troops, it's always good times right there. Them boys get rowdy. A little bit of time, as fresh as I am after the fight, a lot of times I have a juicy tournament or another competition after my fight. Like I have another juicy tournament 2 weeks after this fight, something like that, or wrestling tournament. But as soon as I'm ready to go, next weekend, the weekend after that, I'm down to having fun.
My question to Scott Walker. Scott, is it true that Vitaly Minakov will fight against the Grand Prix winner?
As you guys know, we've signed Vitaly back to Bellator after, I think, about a 2-year layoff. His name is definitely in the mix. Is it guaranteed? It's not guaranteed, but he will be, getting active beginning of next year.
Thank you.
A question for Andy back here. Andy, it's been a very long road for you, and it seems like you've never had a chance to fight on the biggest stage possible. You were on The Ultimate Fighter, you got close. Do you feel like this is very long overdue and perhaps your last chance to prove to everyone that you do belong here?
Hey Ariel, how are you?
Hi Andy.
Yeah, it's nice to be talking to you. It's been a frustrating journey in a number of ways. It's been very fulfilling in a lot of ways, but I've had, a slew of injuries over the years that have kept me from being able to kind of reach potential at varying times throughout my career. So, to come back off of the layoff that I had, get the win, and then immediately be able to step up into the Bellator of today, which I think is, a completely different animal than even when I was kind of on my best tear. Being able to step into a show, with Fedor and Chael, and the biggest show of the year. Yeah, it's my opportunity to show I'm still here, and to be honest, even throughout that, I'm still only 29 years old, so I got time. I got time and time to prove what I have and what I can do. So that's what I plan to do.
And a question for Scott. Couldn't help but think of you on Saturday as what transpired in Las Vegas transpired, and also the fact that when the melee, if you will, happened in Nashville many moons ago, Dana White sent out a tweet with a smiley face. What was going through your mind when you watched that?
I actually landed in London and my phone was blowing up because I was flying overnight, and I did not get a chance to see the brawl live or the melee. The smiley face, it's irrelevant, honestly, to me. It's like we're moving forward, doing our own thing, and but something like that is it's not good for the sport. I'm glad we're here to continue business as usual and get back to how it should be run. To me, it's a black eye for the industry, right? So it's up to all of us to pick it up and make sure something like that never happens again. But that was an embarrassing moment for the sport, as far as I'm concerned. And I lived it. If you look at our cage now, it's very thin in there. And I would say that it was an explosive environment, and it got explosive. And that's really not the way MMA should be.
Just one last one for Fedor. I just wanted to know if you had any comments on your fellow countrymen's actions. Today he's saying, he's honoring his teammates and he will always protect them and he will always stand by them. And so I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts on what Khabib has done on Saturday and what he has said since then.
Федор, что вы думаете, есть ли у вас какие-нибудь комментарии по поводу того, что учинил соотечественник, что произошло на недавнем бое Хабиба и Конора?
Я сейчас не смотрю бои, не смотрел, не видел ситуации, что произошло на соревнованиях на турнире UFC, поэтому никак не могу комментировать.
I cannot give you, Ariel, any comments because I did not watch this fight. During my camp, I don't watch any fights.
Я слышал, что произошел инцидент этот скандал.
Yeah, I have heard about the scandal. I have heard about the brawl.
Сейчас в данный момент не даю никаких подробностей.
But at the moment, I'm not going into details.
Вадим Тихомиров, два вопроса Федора Емельяненко. Здравствуйте, Федор. Первый. Вы говорите, что вы не смотрите бои, стараетесь не смотреть. Будете ли вы смотреть второй полуфинал боя Мэтта Митриона против Райана Бейдера?
Fedor, you say that you do not watch fights during your camp, but are you going to watch the second semi-final of Matt Mitrione?
Да, конечно, я просмотрю своих оппонентов и вообще смотрю бои, но в данный период времени до своего поединка в субботу я смотрю ничего.
Usually, if this is not the camp time, not the preparation for the fight time, I do watch the fights, and I watch the fights of my opponents. But before my fight, I don't watch any fights.
Если позволите еще один вопрос, скажите, принципиально ли для вас было, или там планируете ли вы, думаете ли вы об этом, чтобы провести еще один бой в России до того момента, как вы окончательно завершите карьеру? Спасибо.
Fedor, do you have a plan to have another fight, maybe in Russia, before you decide to retire?
Нет, для меня не принципиально абсолютно. Пока завершение карьеры никто не говорит.
Well, we do not speak about retirement at the moment, and well, it's not that important maybe for me to have the fight in Russia.
Question for Scott again. Scott, I think it's 58 fighters, all competing within, I think, the space of 30 hours, whatever it is, 150 miles apart. You know, the logistics of this seem enormous. How difficult was it putting it all together?
You know, I'll tell you, that's the beauty of the company that we have here with Viacom and supporting Bellator and our staff. Our staff is, honestly, you would be surprised at the size of our staff. You know, we don't have 300-400 employees. And, you know, this was a monumental task, trying to coordinate the two events and all the press stuff and all. It was a lot of work, but, you know, they got the job done. So I'm really proud of them. And a lot of them are here. A lot of them are at the Mohegan Sun right now waiting for, you know, us to get there tomorrow. We got weigh-ins in Long Island tomorrow. I mean, it was a big commitment, and, you know, I'm proud of them. So, you know, my hands off to you guys that are here working, and you know, it was not an easy task here.
Thanks very much.
This question's for Benson. We've seen the success of the heavyweight Grand Prix so far. You've dabbled at welterweight before. Was the welterweight Grand Prix ever something you were interested in?
For sure. I would love to get on that. That was never brought to me. I never brought it up. My name was never brought up. No one from Bellator ever contacted me for the welterweight tournament. But if someone gets hurt, you need someone to step up and make weight on 6 hours notice, 1 day's notice, I'm your man. So I would love to do that, yeah.
Given your history, you know, in jiu-jitsu tournaments and whatnot, does that style suit you a little better, you think?
I think I do pretty well. Minus my man Andre, who whooped my butt for 25 straight minutes. I think I would do pretty well at 70. Being a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, a little bit more agile than some of those bigger guys. And then like the same day weigh-ins, if I can get a fight at normally 70 and it's a longer fight, it goes longer, tends to go my way a little bit more.
You had one fight last year, you're getting back in the cage now. Is this how often you want to be getting at it?
No, I want to get it 5-6 times a year. I'm feisty like that. I like staying busy, staying active. You know, fight every other month. I'm down with that. Let's do it. My body's holding up while I can. I'm gonna ride till the wheels fall off.
Just one for Henry and Carlos back in the back. You had that rough patch where you lost 3 in a row, but you managed to turn a corner and, you know, really coming on now when you're past 3. What's changed for you in that span, or was it just a product of, you know, fighting some of the best guys in this weight class?
Yeah, that too, but the biggest change was I moved camps. I was in Southern California, kind of floating around gym to gym, and me and my head coach from All In MMA, Eddie Cha, we made the move to the lab, and that's 3 straight since I've been there with my brother Benson Henderson and all that team over there. It's just a bunch of studs there, and a place like that is just physically impossible not to evolve and just become a better, you know, not just a fighter, but a better person across the board. So I'm super grateful for the team, and things are looking up for me.
So if you get a win here, do you want another opportunity to kind of get some redemption against one of those top guys and show the change?
Yeah, dude. There's definitely vengeance on the mind, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, I'm a real fighter, dude, and I'll fight all these guys. So I'm ready to go with whoever, whenever.
And just one last one for Chael. When you were kind of on your, you know, away from the sport and retired and everything, and you said you weren't coming back and weren't gonna fight anymore, how truly did you mean that at the time? Did you ever feel like you would be back here on this type of platform fighting in these type of, you know, marquee major fights?
I met him for about 2 weeks. I really did, and it couldn't have been more boring. You know, fighting is my social life for a large part too. Going to the gym and that lifestyle and those interactions. And yeah, I was bored. I was lonely, and I wanted back.
So what does it mean to you to be back now?
Well, I'm very happy to be back. I mean, some of the guys that I looked up to in the sport, it wasn't just about accomplishments, but, you know, use Randy Couture by example. I really admired how he had an ability to extend his career, or Dan Henderson, or Matt Lindland. And, you know, I came after those guys. I looked up to those guys, but I also was jealous of them. I wanted to take their championships. I wanted to win those same things for myself. But that's also one of them. I look at it a lot. Randy Couture made it till he was 47 years old at the highest level of the sport. Dan Henderson to 46, Matt Lindland to 42, and I'm chasing them. I think that it's a real skill. I think that it's a lot of discipline, a lot of focus, a lot of mental to stay involved with this for this long. And if you can do it at the highest level, then play on.
You obviously have a ton going on outside of competition itself, so what do you feel like will be the moment that makes you move away from being an active fighter completely?
Well, every fighter's career ends the same, which is face down and embarrassed, and I'm not going to be any different. I will leave it on the table. You know, Benson just said ride it till the wheels fall off, but I would hate to leave something on the table. I look back at my own wrestling career, which ended in 2000, and I've always wondered what would have happened if I stuck in one more cycle. Could have I made the Olympic team? So, you know, I'm not going to do that in this sport if it's up to me. Ultimately, it won't be up to me. Coach Clayton will grab me someday and say, you're not what you used to be, and we're done. So until I get that call, I'm going to fight.
We'll do just 2 or 3 more.
Question for Scott. You have the Heavyweight Grand Prix ending in January and the Welterweight Grand Prix just began. How beneficial is it to have another main card fighter training with you every day leading into this fight?
I'll let Henry take that one first.
Dude, it's like the best thing I could ask for, because this guy brings the heat, man. He's on fire at the gym. He's just so positive, and he's always just firing everybody up. And just that kind of attitude is just contagious. So everybody at the gym is all pumped up whenever Benson's fighting, because he's all pumped up. So it just brings out the best in him. We'll see tomorrow, Saturday night, man.
I would have to say for sure, having another teammate, having another brother on the same card, you know, we liken it to going to war, to going to battle. It's not exactly going to war, it's not exactly going to battle, but you guys understand what we mean by that, the gist of it. And when you have a brother who you're going to war with, it definitely helps motivate you, helps you stay on track. I see Henry in there getting after it on a mid-session when I was like, oh, I'm a little bit tired, all this and that. Henry's in there getting after it, like, all right, well, let's go, let's get after it, let me get my next workout in. So at our gym, we have a ton of guys who are fighting this weekend. We have Johnny Case at the PFL. We have another brother on the Mohegan card. We have another couple of brothers fighting down in Tucson. So like we're a busy gym. We got guys fighting all around the country, all around the world this weekend. And then having a brother on the same card as me, main card, Bellator, big event, big stage. Man, you can't get excited for that. You better check your heart rate, you better check your pulse, right? Just check if that heart's still working.
Уже задали вопрос Федору Емельяненко о том, как он относится к поступку Хабиба Нурмагомедова, который выпрыгнул из клетки. Но вот 2 другим представителям России не задали этот вопрос, поэтому Анатолий Токов и Александр Шлеменко. Что вы думаете о том, что случилось на UFC 239?
The question was asked to Fedor Emelianenko, now the same question to Anatoly Tokov and Alexander Shlemenko. What do you guys think about what happened after the latest UFC when Khabib jumped out of the cage and everything that happened afterwards? What are your thoughts about that?
Анатолий первый, да?
Давай, ответь. Я могу ответить, как ты хочешь.
Отвечай, Сань, я не смотрел бой.
Да, я бой смотрел, болел за Хабиба. В первую очередь хочу сказать, поздравляю его с победой. Я также хотел добавить, ну что сказать, тут тяжело. Я в этой ситуации не был, я не видел, кто что кричал, кто начал. Я тоже очень много смотрел, разбирался, кто же спровоцировал Хабиба, чтобы он выскочил из клетки. Ну что хочу сказать, здесь нужно на две части разделить. В принципе, к Хабибу не имею никаких вот претензий, считаю, что в целом он мог сорваться после того, как проходила пресс-конференция, после того, как он все слышал. А что там дальше началось, ну говорю, здесь нужно разбираться плотно. Здесь сложно делать какие-то оценки, не выслушав две стороны.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Khabib with this win. It was a great performance. And speaking of what happened afterwards, it's difficult to say. I mean, I cannot blame Khabib for what he did because obviously he was all pumped up after the fight, and it's really difficult to contain yourself after what you heard from your opponent during the press conferences and during everything that was before the fight. So it's important to listen to both sides, what both sides would say, and then maybe make a decision.
All right.
As for Anatoly didn't watch the fight.
At this time, we are going to wrap it up. We're going to reset the stage for photo ops. If we could have the fighters on this side of the stage stand off to this side, fighters on that side of the stage stand off to that side. We'll remove the tables and then do stare downs for photos.